dealing with the reality of life in America. And if it were not for Black music, whatever genre it might be, I don't know if we could have survived this. I really don't know for sure, because much of what we had to deal with was an attempt to kill us. You know, we were brought here for labor, and as those things shifted, and certain aspects of labor were no longer necessary, they tried to kill us. We know what lynching was about, you know. And we found ways. We found ways to survive. And I think that music, as Gary Bard said, music is my sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. In so many ways, music is the place that we find, and I continue to find, a sense of not only hope, but dignity and expression of the essence of who I am as a human being. And in the face of being dehumanized, in the face of being degraded, music allowed us to tap into the essence of what it means to be human, to, as you say, get through it.
Yeah.
With that, good evening, family, and welcome to this edition of what we call the Tone of Truth. It is a 6-week concert and conversation series brought to you by the Ayo Cultural Arts Center, along with the Jazz and Heritage Foundation, and in concert with the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. This is our kind of answer to the National Day of Racial Healing, a day to reimagine our collective humanity. And we'll be taking these conversations all the way through Black History Month, which is a month where we kind of, you know, honor our collective future and our collective history as well. You've already been joined into this conversation. We apologize to anybody who may have been looking for us a few minutes ago. We had some technical difficulties, but we're here now. And I'm so happy to be with you. My name is Frederick Wood Delahousie, and it is my extreme pleasure to serve as the Chief Creative Officer, Artistic Director of the Ayo Cultural Arts Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a New Orleans artist, which means I live and breathe culture. It's the soundtrack to my life and the tone of my existence. And these folks who are on the screen with me this evening will speak that into power tonight. I am joined by our moderator, first I'll introduce, who really needs no introduction. Cultural anthropologist, educator, record spinner, poet, author. He does everything so well and so phenomenally. I'm talking about Baba Kalamu Ya Salaam. We are also joined by writer, synergizer, strategic planner, Ayo Robinson, and organizer, trainer with the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, Dr. Kimberley Richards. This conversation tonight hopes to just talk about how music, culture, healing, faith can be used as weapons in the struggle against the triple pandemics of health, social, and economic inequality, and how we can build solidarity in the quest for racial justice and social change by using that. You heard Baba Kalamu and Dr. Kim speak to all of that. So I will get out of the way and pass all of this on over to these phenomenal folks and enjoy and welcome once again to what we call In the Tone of Truth.
You know, music is the truth. You can pretend, you can act like, but everybody knows when you're really doing it. You know, whether it's singing a song or beating a drum or whatever. You can fake it, but not for long. Not for long. And I think that's one of the amazing things about the sincerity of our music. If you're really into it, it's clear. If you're just looking, you know, to make a buck or whatever, that's clear too. Did I step in it?
You didn't. And, you know, Kalamu, one of the things that you reminded me of, just in what it means for music to be the truth. I think of what it is each day to wake up into your own truth, to wake up into the simple truth of your own heartbeat, the truth of the energy of the day, the truth of the flow of the earth's rotation, of sunrise and sunset. And no matter what is happening, when we can stand inside of our own rhythm and know our connection to the rhythm of nature, then we can move with the noise of everything that human beings are doing. If we can keep the beat of our own existence, if we can stay true to that beat, then we can do this dance called dealing with the whatever it is, because before what it is now, it was something else.
And Ayo, I'm really glad you talked about the heartbeat, because, you know, as we think about sound and energy, the beat of our mother's heart is the first thing we hear. As we think about music and rhythm and sound and energy and the heartbeat and the rhythm of life, that, you know, the rhythm of life as it is carved out for us and as we hew it out, no matter where we are. I really appreciate this series looking at healing and music and the role of art and culture as we seek to organize for a more just and equitable society in a nation that is shaped by the imposition of the ideology of race. You know, the late Francis Cress Welsing often said that if you take every letter that we use to spell the word America and you scramble those letters up, you get the phrase, I am race. So we are a nation built on the imposition of the ideology of race. And as we were talking, just as we were going live, that then our ability to be in touch with a rhythm, to be in sync with the rhythm and that heartbeat, you know, as music, that music allows us a vehicle, a venue to express our own expression of that beat and our own expression in a way that we find dignity in the face of being dehumanized. So the role of art and culture has been so central in our movements for justice, in our movements for equity.
I would only add that it's despite the attempts to dehumanize us.
Absolutely.
And they have been from the time in which we were introduced into this specific land. There have been attempts over and over and over and over and over again to dehumanize us. And somehow Negroes, we make it. Somehow we make it. Just like you're smiling right now.
Well,
I know y'all have been through hard times.
Well, I'm smiling because what I know to be true is that what we are walking in at this point in the history of who we are is like a sample of a song that is so long, like half the people who see this won't even know what an extended LP is, but longer than that. Longer than what it even means to be on this continent, longer than what it means to be living on the westernmost part of another continent, all the way back to when we walked out of the eastern part of that continent. That is really the beginning of our music. And so we can be in this part that sounds like a cacophony of attempts to dehumanize because we stay connected to the beginning of the song. We stay connected to what the original beat was. And we stay connected to what it means to actually be the source of all music. And so wherever we are in the music right now is okay, because even if the consciousness doesn't remember, the blood remembers.
I'm going to take it a step further. It's not the blood, because check this. Our ability to be ourselves is dependent upon our relationship to the heartbeat of a woman. And to the degree that we move away from, shall I say, vibing with that heartbeat, we forget it. We forget it. To the degree that we move closer to it, then we will survive. And that is the beginning of the music, the female heartbeat. Not the Negro, not the man, the female heartbeat, because without the female heartbeat, there is no other heartbeat. You understand what I'm saying? And that's
we're on the same page. Yes, we're on the same page. Again, that is the first sound that a human life hears, is the beat of the heart of their mother. The energy and the rhythm of that heartbeat is the foundation of all of life. And as you were saying, Ayo, then that puts us also in rhythm and in harmony with Mother Nature herself. But our first connection with Mother Nature is the beat of our mother's heart. And that is the true music. And that from that heartbeat and that music comes the music of even how we speak to each other. You know, for me, music is not just the drum, but there is a drum in the way that we say good morning. That is music to my ears. The way that, you know, you walk into a room and don't speak to folks and the elders say, child, I didn't sleep with you last night. You better speak to somebody. That's music, right? That's music. And so that's so much the essence. So as a woman and a mother, Baba Kalamu, I couldn't affirm what you said even more, which is why I was so happy, Ayo, that you said that heartbeat, because that is the first rhythm and the first sound power energy that we hear.
Yeah, yeah. You know, in Ifa practice, we talk about that mothering energy as the thing that nurtures and protects, that thing from which everything arises. And Kalamu, you had us think about the difference between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And we think of that divine masculine energy as that helps things go forward. And so it's the combination of being able to move between being nurtured, protected, shaped, birthed, and rebirthed, and being energized to move forward through all things. It's that dance between the divine feminine and masculine that really makes us who we are. And it's music that can often bring us back together, bring us back in rhythm, in unison as a collective. And you know, that's a driving aspect of our culture.
I know there are some houses that have no men.
Yes.
But they still got a heartbeat.
Yes.
And that's the important thing, because for most men think that they run the world. I'm true.
I wasn't trying to contribute to that. I said what I said to say, if you're going to be here, let us give you something to do.
Because it is the neck that turns the head.
Because every human being has a divine assignment.
That's right.
Every human being has a divine assignment.
And all I'm saying is some human beings are not male.
Some human beings, I didn't hear you, Kalamu. Some human beings are.
are not males. And in fact, the beginning of humanity is not male, it's female.
Yes.
That's the important thing to remember.
Yes.
So that as a male, what you're doing is participating in humanity, not in defining humanity.
Indeed.
Hard for a lot of people to accept that, but that's all right. Hey, Wood, what are we supposed to do next? Wood, where you at? I see your name. I don't hear you.
I see a Sally is signing on though.
I'm here, Bob. What you say?
I said, what are we supposed to do next?
It's an organic conversation. You do you.
It's an organic conversation.
Like I'm really interested to hear from all of you all. You know, we talk about healing. You know, New Orleans is I won't say that we're a unique space. Well, I mean, we definitely are a unique space. But in regards to like how we, you know, how celebration is not only beautiful, but it's necessary for us, right? And how we come to that is by when we're thinking about our folks going home. We have these homegoing celebrations where it's a real celebration, right? With a second line and with this and with that, and we really take part in sending our folks to the next lifetime in such a musical, magical, mystical way. And how do you think that plays a part in how we, you know, how we just are different, but also how it helps us heal?
I will say it in a way that might seem stupid. I was in Ghana, 1998, somewhere around there. Anyway, it was for the first Panafest in Ghana. And it was in a major stadium. People came in and they paraded around the stadium to their portion of where they were supposed to be allocated space for their chief and the dignitaries and what have you. And you had groups from all over the region, right? And it went all around. And everybody had a space. Then at the very end, bringing up the tail end, you had what I call the people of no chiefs. They were quote unquote ragtag. They did not have real drums. They had boxes and containers, and they beat on that. They did not have a place to sit in the stadium per se, but they were a group of people. They made their music. They went all around the stadium and nobody tried to stop them. Nobody. And you, as someone from New Orleans, I said, that's a second line. That is a second line. And what that means is, even when we don't have a chief, we got a beat. We got life. And that's what was important. And when you saw that and felt that, you understood that we're not just going to define ourselves by some type of hierarchy or what have you. We're going to define ourselves by life, our way of living and being with each other. And that's more important. And it was a moment. It was a moment to see that and to understand that, because that's what it's about for us, maintaining that life force. I feel like I step in it every time I open my mouth because then nobody don't say nothing.
You step on it. That's what happens. When they say the nail on the head, you know, that type of thing. But you know, I'll pose that question to Dr. Kim and Ayo as well.
And what's your question again, Wood?
Just about how, you know, uniquely New Orleans is, how we use celebration as a means of healing. How, you know, how it's like a second line and homegoing services mean, you know, the celebration is not only beautiful, you know, it's necessary for us, right?
Right.
It's something that we have to do, something that is a part of our cultural existence. We say cultureizer from the cracks in the concrete, and most of the time that's because the ancestors still trying to give it to us even after they passed on. And so, you know, how is that part of healing? You know, how does that come about for us, and what do you feel like it does for us as a community?
You know, as you say that, Wood, I think about Frankie Beverly's song, Joy and Pain. Sunshine and rain. And so we have always been a people that have known that in death there is life, and in life there is death. And so how we are able to, I believe, stay grounded in a truth that really says that life is all, you know, there's an aspect of us that lives and dies every day as living human beings. And so our ability to end the grief, find the joy in the pain, in the oppression, in whatever the experience is that may be attempting to say we are not, we are able to, in the midst of whatever that is, say we are, I am. And the beautiful thing about the way that happens in New Orleans, it is, you know, it is the I am because we are, it is the collective, you know, so it is groups. You know, it is not just the individual, but it is in the collective, because as we were saying earlier, it takes the two energies to give birth to life. And so we have been able in our music, in our dance, in our poetry, in any way of human creativity, we've been able to express both. You know, sometimes we start laughing, then we start crying, then we start crying, then we start laughing. It's all a part of, I think, that joy and that pain, that sunshine and that rain. And so I think there's one of the things I love about New Orleans, being from Mississippi, and I always tell folks, and speaking to you right now from Mississippi, that you wouldn't have New Orleans without Mississippi. So I don't get caught up into the geopolitical divisions of, but being in, you know, where I am right now, you know, I always say that in New Orleans, it is a world-class culture there, because you will find a culture in New Orleans that you don't anyplace else in this country. And I think it's because of what we have been able to create in the face of what we faced.
You know, what you said, Dr. Kim, reminds me of the fact that you must have the opposite of a thing in order to really have the thing. Professor Sophie Oluwole talked about, we want to talk about the valley, but we can't talk about the valley unless we also talk about the hill and the mountain, that you don't have one without the other. And you asked Wood about the culture of what it means to celebrate our loved ones becoming ancestors. And I didn't grow up in New Orleans, so what I really appreciate about the way that that transition within the cycle of life is celebrated here is that it really is honored as an absolute continuation, complete with its own music, its own rituals. Not that we don't have that in other places, but we don't have the level of public celebration that we have here in New Orleans, that it really is a cycle. It's all a part of the same thing. And so we have the soundtrack for that, just as we have the soundtrack for all of our other important rites on the path of life.
I'd even take it a step further. I can remember some years back when a stray dog died, and the dog was well known in the community, right? That dog died and put him in a box and came down the street playing Atomic Dog. Everybody understood what it was about.
Right.
Everybody understood that.
And there was a song right there ready to sing, right? Atomic Dog. There was a song right there for the dog.
And I don't know if you could have got away with that in Nebraska or Texas or wherever. But in New Orleans,
there would be a conversation in the community about your family if you did that in some.
But in New Orleans, everybody that heard it in that neighborhood knew what that was about.
That's right.
And that's deep.
And you know, a part of that is, you say that, Kalamu, a part of that is, as we talk about healing, you know, our communities have been so a part of our healing. And, you know, and again, and community is a place that you can find joy and pain.
Right.
But a part of what, you know, my lived experience has been is that when a family went through joy or pain, the community went through it with them. Yeah. That it wasn't just an isolated, and the way that the community shows up. And so for me, in terms of healing, you know, healing from all of the attempts to dehumanize us, it has been a collective process. And the role that music plays and has historically played to be that rhythm, to be that beat that pulls us, that calls us, that unites us. I was just the other day watching, and you all may have seen it. What is the movie around A Night in Miami? I don't know if you all have seen that.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, there's a beautiful section in that piece, and then it goes back to the heartbeat, right? When the singer doesn't have the mic and he's, you know, ready to sing a song, and the band walks off the stage because they have no sound. What does he do? Yeah. He strikes that beat, and the collective community in that room just elevates to a place that it was better if there wasn't any electronic music. But what the call to the community, it was that beat. And so, you know, to hear an example of Atomic Dog bringing a community together, you know, there's story after story after story, wherever you got Black folks. It may not be Atomic Dog in Nebraska, but I'm sure that where there are Black folks in Nebraska, there's some type of clarion call that comes out that will call people together so that we can soothe and heal and comfort in the midst of the pain, to be able to get to the joy. And for me, that collective experience is a part of my healing, that being in community with folks, whatever and however that community is organized around, but being in a community of folks that are working to make a difference, and know that that has to happen collectively, is both a part of joy and some pain too, because community can put some pain on you, and community can bring you some joy.
You know, you just made me think about the way I actually met Baba Kalamu, who's really, I call him my literary father. But having met him as someone who aspired to be a poet, and having been a part of what we created in collective No More Literary Society, that met regularly here in New Orleans for a decade. But a part of that cycle of creation was about the individual's work, the individual coming into a community of writers who studied together, who shared their work, but then it still wasn't complete within that community until we went to Community Book Center and shared the work with the larger community. What it is to be a culture bearer is to create something that is an expression from you, through you as vessel, but it's really not until it is seen, it is heard, it is touched, it is experienced, it is shared in the larger community. And so if there was indeed some pain that got healed through the creation of that art, the healing is not necessarily complete until it's out in the community, until the artist is in a symbolic ring shout, spreading the energy of their own healing to everybody in the community who can then give it back to them. That's really what it is to elevate your art making into community making.
You know, y'all, so this, as I mentioned earlier when I introduced you guys, that this In the Tone of Truth programming is a series, a 6-week series of concerts and conversations. So our concert actually took place on Tuesday. Thanks to everybody who watched. And we featured Sonny Patterson and Mama Sula Spirit. And so when I think about two musical, mystical healing forces, you know, in a space, they really kind of, you know, you kind of touched upon a lot of the things that they shared, that it was even though it was just us in the room with a videographer because of COVID, of course, you know, it was a collective kind of energy that was in there. And, you know, we you know, y'all was in the room and you know, and all these folks, these Orisha, yeah, you know, everybody was in the space and you could feel it. And I think, you know, for me, you know, of course, Sunny is magical in herself. And so just her words can often take you to a different space and have you feeling good about yourself whenever you walk into a space. And then Mama Sula's soft and calming voice, when she sang about Oya, when she sang about Elegba and all these different, you know, different folks, it was really just a moment where it was like, oh, okay, we in the midst of this, you know, this pandemic. We had a year where we had global weather events like Saharan dust and wildfires and more named storms than ever in the history of storms. And then for us, you know, systemic racism is the pandemic we've always had to deal with. So in that moment, the music, you know, it took me out of there. You know, it took me out of that headspace for a moment. And I'm just wondering, you know, for y'all, if there ain't any artists or any music that kind of, like when all this stuff was happening, you put this person on and you was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down with my pineapple cocktail concoction that you were talking about earlier and really just, I'm gonna be relaxed. I mean, we talked about, you know, Frankie Beverly, but anybody else who who kind of sets your mind at ease and has you in that space?
There's so many people. That's one of the beauties of the music, is that just like there's one today, tomorrow there's another. And then there's another, and there's another. And the reason being is because it's not about anyone special, it's about all of us together. And when we can all get on the one, as we used to say, when everything is on the one, when everything can get on the one, we all right. You know, we all right. And different people have different opportunities to express themselves within the context of their particular projection of their interpretation of the one.
You know, one of the things that I've done a lot of work, and I'm currently been organizing with the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond for many years, and founded by Ron Chisholm and the late Dr. James Norman Dunn. One of the things that Jim always said is that you truly know that you have a movement when the singers sing it, and the writers write it, and the dancers dance it. And so just affirming what was just said by Kalamu, that there are so many singers, you know, there are so many writers. To just pull out one, you know, I could go from the songs that, you know, I learned growing up in Sunday school. You know, we come this far by faith. You can't hardly have been to a Black Baptist church without hearing, we come this far by faith. Leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy word. He never failed me yet. You know, so that's just one of them old standbys. When I think about the old, you know, I think about a song that my mother used to sing, that her mother used to sing, and just talked about my mother prayed for me, you know, or just a song that just is a song of gratitude. So there's no one genre of music, there's no one singer of music, but, you know, one of my favorites is just Louis Armstrong's Smile. You know, in the face of whatever, I could sit here for the rest of the night and, you know, think of all the different songs, but to say one, but for me, it's in the face of whatever, do I have that song in my heart? You know, is my heart open to even feel the rhythm of my own heart? And as Ayo said earlier, to feel the rhythm of my own truth, because many times we live, you know, under whatever is oppressing us, that will have us doubt our own knowledge that is within us, that will have us doubt our own voice that is within. And so depending on where my voice is within, it just vibrates and connects then with another voice of truth that is at that same vibrational level, be it a song, be it a poem, be it a dance. You know, I was sharing earlier before we got on, I spent the day with the Urban Bush Women. So while we're on live, I'll give a shout out to all the listeners. I did let them know that I would be joining this esteemed panel today at Ashe, and they have much love in their heart for Ashe and for the city of New Orleans, because they did a long-term residency here. But you know, this just even the dance and the way that the song and the dance come together. So to be able to pick out one would be hard, but to stay grounded in, as was said earlier, in the song in my heart, that is my truth, that is really gives even clarity around being connected to life purpose and having, you know, vibrational energy that keeps me on that path or even expands it.
I really love all the songs where you can feel that the person is really singing their truth. They're not singing something that someone wrote for them. You know, they're singing a story that they know, even if they weren't the person who actually wrote the lyrics, they know that story. I like those songs. Now, whatever that conjures up for you, I like that song. But you spoke about both the People's Institute and Urban Bush Women, and I had the opportunity to be inside of one of the trainings that also included Junebug production. It was this weaving together of all of that important work, and this may have been the closing song, but I know it was the closing song one day, and we were in circle, and one of the dancers began singing, "I got a right, I got a right, I got a right
to the tree of life.
You got a right, we got a right." And the power that got raised up in that circle that day still moves me to tears. And so the drumming, the music, the horns, the brass band, everything that elevates the energy where you can really feel yourself connected to something larger than the experience of right now. That's the music I like.
Beautiful. We have about 5 minutes left. I wanted to make sure, Morgan, if there's any questions from folks in the live, And then I want to give everybody an opportunity to just give us some closing remarks. So I'll start with Bible Kalamu. You can give us the closing remarks, and if we get a question, I'll jump in with the question from the folks that's on Facebook right now. But in closing, Bible, what you got?
In closing.
Well, before you do that, Bible, can I ask you about this young sister, Amanda Gorman, who was at the inauguration? This 22-year-old magic personified. How did you feel about the young sister? You know, you being our literary daddy.
I'll put it to you this way. There's always another. There's always another. And one of the things that makes it so beautiful to be us is that there's always another. And as much as we may admire, as much as we may revere, as much as we may hold up some particular person, some particular event and everything, guess what? There's going to always be another. And that is what our strength is. Our strength is not any one individual, but our strength is there's always going to be another and another and another. And it's not going to look like nothing we thought it was going to look like. You know, that sister she does not reflect Ayanna Van Zandt. You understand what I'm saying? She's not Nikki Giovanni, but she's another in the line, the long line that we have. And that's what's so beautiful about it. That, you know, as I said, you could shoot down one, you could shoot down two, but you can't get us all.
I share to that. Ayo, Dr. Kim, you have a reaction to the young sister?
I just loved her sense of style.
Yeah, wasn't it?
I loved her sense of style. I love the use of her hands. I love the grace of her movement. That where I would agree with you, Brother Kalamu, that there's always another. And you know, it's that piece, and I don't know who wrote it, but when I saw her there, it's like there was a cloud of witnesses. There was a cloud of all those who she had come after with her. So she was one, but she was 10,000 at the same time. To see her in her blackness and her goldness and her redness, you know, it was beautiful. Matter of fact, my grandson, because I wasn't watching it initially, and my grandson, who was 17, called and he said, "Mama Kim, what you think about Amanda Gorman?" I said, "Oh, I hadn't watched." He said, get on YouTube right now. So he and I watched it together to see the 22-year-old inspire my 17-year-old, and have him calling me on yesterday to make sure that I watched it was the connect, that he was a part of her, even though he wasn't there, but he was a part of me enjoying her. So the intergenerational nature of her presence was inspiring for me, and just her style.
And I want to add right quickly, it's important to understand the positives and the negatives. COVID is a major negative. Over 400,000 people are dead. At the same time, COVID exists, we figured out Zoom. And Zoom has us touching each other. And I doubt if the 17-year-old would have felt the same way about the 22-year-old if it had not been Zoomed.
And made sure to call the 64-year-old and say, let's watch this together.
Yeah.
Not only did he feel it, he was activated to do something, to be in community with me and her and YouTube.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
That we live in a time period. They can kill one, they can kill two, but they can't kill us all.
We don't die, we multiply.
Multiply.
You just couldn't resist. Could you?
I wanted to say it earlier, but it's like we getting to the end of the show. We don't die, we multiply. They put us in the dirt and didn't realize we were seeds.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the thing, you know, that I will add to there is always another is, oh, but please, by all means, be the fullest expression of the one that you are.
Yeah, that's right.
And she did that. She did that. She did her work. She represented her work, her lineage, past and future. Yes. She did that. And so, you know, that's it. It was just encouragement for every person who has something to say about how the world is, and also how the world can be. And so I'm grateful to Ashe Cultural Arts Center for being that institution that gives us all across this region a place in which and from which we can express who we are, what we have to say about the way things are, and what we have to say and are willing to do about making it the way that we envision it to be. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to participate in a conversation that is about healing and about art and about change making.
Well, I share to that. Thank y'all so much. This has been quite a conversation and quite an evening. You know, you all are all griot, you know, griot. We call however you want to say the word, but y'all are phenomenal storytellers and just givers of so much wisdom in life. And I truly appreciate just being in conversation with you all. Me being allowed, I feel so privileged to be sitting here with you all. This has been the Art of Conversation, Tone of Truth edition, episode 1. Because we'll be back next Thursday. Baba Kalamu will be back next Thursday with Ariana Hall, who is the executive director of Cubanola, and with Michelle Ramos, the director of Alternate Roots, in a conversation about building cross-movement solidarities around how Black and Brown folks can really start to work together in this healing space, in this musical space, in this poetic space to make moves towards that social justice, towards the future that not only we seek, but the one that we deserve. And we thank y'all so much for joining. Dr. Kim, Ayo, Baba, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. This is Ashe Cultural Arts Center's Art of Conversation in the Tone of Truth, and we will see y'all next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.